Okay. While we get that started, there we go. I was just saying that last week we read the first fundamental point in the 29th word. So we're continuing our study of um, the 29th word with Dr. Yamina, who's helping us get a deeper sense of the text. We uh, mainly kind of delved into matter and non-matter experiences and understanding of everything around us, our life, ourselves. I know that Sarah wants to give us a little summary. So if you are free and available, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So just to recap where we have been and what we have gained until now, so that we can continue to build, inshallah, on what we've already received. So through the Nursi text, we have confirmed that there must be angels, spirit beings that fill not only the celestial realm that is amidst us, but in all matter. We've confirmed and came to the conclusion rationally that matter, which is all things, in and of itself has no ability to do anything. Therefore, it is necessarily being used, dominated, empowered through another means, which are angels / spirit beings, to deliver his decree, which was groundbreaking for me last week because it really allows you a pause when you're witnessing world events happening or events in your own being, in your own body, and notice that there are, for example, feelings coming over you. There are huge things that are happening, and yet there is no matter in and of itself that's operating, that has any power to operate. Nothing. So it really, I mean, I hope everyone else is following the depth of what this conclusion is, because it's not light at all. It absolutely allows a total paradigm shift and a groundbreaking shift in how we view the unfoldings happening, whether it be in our own feelings that come over us and what that may be, what sort of presence is that's delivering some news to me, or in the world. And so with that, unless Dr. Yamina, you have something to add or comment or maybe fix what we've come to the conclusion of, if it's sound, then inshallah we can begin the second fundamental point.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah, for sharing. Inshallah, let's continue. Bismillah.
Bismillah. Okay, here we go. Second fundamental point. It may be said that all the scholars of the speculative and the scriptural sciences have, knowingly or unknowingly, united to effect a consensus in affirming, despite difference of expression, the existence and reality of the angels and spirit beings. One group of peripatetic philosophers of the Illuminist school even, who made much progress in the study of matter, without denying the meaning of the angels, stated that each realm in creation has a spiritual, incorporeal essence. they described the angels thus. Also, a group of the early philosophers who were Illuminists, being compelled to accept the meaning of the angels, were only wrong in naming them the 10 intellects and masters of the realms of creation. Through the inspiration and guidance of revelation, scholars of all the revealed religions have accepted that each realm of creation has an angel appointed to it, and have named them the mountain angel, the sea angel, and the rain angel, for example. Even the materialists and naturalists, whose reasoning is restricted to what is immediately apparent to them, and who have, in effect, fallen from the level of humanity to that of inanimate matter, rather than being able to deny the meaning of the angels, have been compelled to accept them in one respect, though naming them the flowing forces. Here we have a footnote about the materialists and naturalists. It says, they have been unable to find a way to deny the reality and meaning of the angels and spirit beings. In fact, they have been compelled to affirm them in one respect by claiming them to be one of the natural laws, although they describe them wrongly, naming them Kuwaisaria, or flowing forces. Hey, you who consider yourselves to be so clever, Nursi says. So, O you wretched man, who is reluctant to accept the angels and spirit beings, on what do you base this view? What facts do you rely on that you oppose the conscious or otherwise unanimity of all the scholars concerning the existence and reality of the meaning of the angels and the real existence of spirit beings? And since, as was proved in the first fundamental point, life is the revealer of beings, indeed is their consequence, their quintessence, and since all the scholars are in effect unanimous in their acceptance of the meaning of the angels, and this world of ours has been filled to such a degree with animate creatures and beings with spirits, is it all possible that the vastness of space and the rarefied heavens would remain empty of dwellers, have no inhabitants? You should never think that the laws in force in this creation are sufficient for the universe to be alive, because those governing laws are insubstantial commands, they are imaginary principles, they may be considered as non-existent. If there were no absolutely obedient creatures, called angels, to represent them, make them apparent, and take their reins into their own hands, those laws could not be defined as existence, nor be represented as having a particular identity, nor be an external reality. Whereas life is an external reality, and an imaginary command cannot sustain an external reality. Before we go further, and let me know if we should read, and then we can address two questions I have. So one question, Dr. Yamina, that I keep thinking about in the beginning of the second fundamental point is Nursi keeps highlighting the meaning of the angels as something that everyone has agreed on. And then here we're looking at something like natural laws and other sort of order or things that we observe in the order in creation, and we name it, are only there through angels. So, and he says those laws could not be defined as existent nor be represented as having a particular identity, nor be an external reality. So what would be the best way for us to actually contemplate the angelic side of the order we see in creation, and especially in this framework that he is showing us and saying that they have an external reality? Let me know if I should keep reading and then we can come back to it, or if you would like to delve into it now, or if anyone has anything to add to that.
I just want to say that I found it interesting that Imam Nursi says here that everybody knowingly or unknowingly agree that there is the category of beings that are not directly visible, but spiritual, and they're real. They gave different names to it, but everybody has acknowledged that there's something more than what we directly see as physical. And then, of course, immediately what comes to mind is, wait a second, in modern science, we don't seem to have those kind of concepts. In pre-modern science, in natural philosophy, a variety of philosophers have referred to things beyond matter, but it doesn't seem to be the case for modern science. But then he makes reference to laws of nature, which is a common concept in today's science, and that could be our pathway to recognize angels. Of course, it's not mentioned directly. We have to go through some reflection to get there, but the fact that we do use some abstract concept called laws of nature is a good beginning, because we don't directly see the laws of nature. I mean, we see things falling down, but we don't see the law of gravity, like, as it's a concept, but we don't directly see it. But so and oftentimes it's used as, this was discussed in Receiving Nur Halakas before. Imam Nursi discusses it as well. And so it's interesting that, we don't have a direct concept that would map onto angels, but we do have an opening that, if we reflect, even in our very narrow scientific approach to nature, we do have an indication of angels, and so perhaps we can go from there.
Thank you, Isra. Also, what came to me actually, and it reminded me of you, with the Receiving Nur video of the fly. With the laws itself have no external reality. It reminded me of Isra had given an example. If you live in a house and you guys have a Sunday pancake rule, you remember, Isra, it stuck with me. So every Sunday, then everybody gets used to pancake rule because it's Sunday. So does the rule itself make the pancakes? It's a law. Everybody's like, yeah, it's the universe. Yeah, it's the laws of creation. And subhanAllah, everybody believes it. It's like, oh yeah, whatever you put in the universe, you're gonna get. Like, the language has become so, I don't know, commonplace, that everybody truly believes it's the universe and the laws and the karma that are doers and doing. And I guess we supposedly, I mean, maybe I also use that language in that way. Yeah, it's the order. What do we mean? Like, who is carrying out the Sunday pancake rule? You still need a mom and batter, and you need beings to actually carry out the rule. There's no external reality to the law itself. I'm going to pause there, and I saw Tesnia's hand.
I'm so happy that this discussion is coming up, because more and more I find myself very nervous and concerned about what I say and how I say it to my son. Like he's 6 years old. We're homeschooling this year, so he's really like, getting into plants and animals. And then on Sunday we went to a museum, and they had like a little video that talked about mitochondria and how mitochondria in the cells give energy. And as I was listening to it, I was starting to panic because I was like, well, who made the mitochondria? Like I wanted to talk to him about that. And then as I was trying to have like a little bit of a follow-up discussion, like I was like, yeah, like, in the video, like it talked about mitochondria, like, Allah created that. And then he's like, well, that's not what it said in the video, mama. Like, and, I was like, yeah, I know what you're saying in the video, but I wanted to kind of have a conversation with him. So I don't know, like I find myself, and I don't know if it's right of me, but I find myself like now talking to him in a very anxious way about these concepts, because in regular books and stuff like that, or even in documentaries, like they talk about things in a very disconnected way, which I wasn't aware of until recently. So I would be curious in terms of like, maybe perhaps, yeah, how to even discuss this with people around us, because I don't know, I'm finding a heaviness. So I don't know if Dr. Yamina has anything to comment on, yeah, how do we even talk about this when the naturist laws are kind of like in your face in every literature, everything that you read, because I don't want him to kind of be lost the way I was. So yeah.
Can I just pause and add? Isra just posted the link for the video that was about the fly. And in that video, there's plenty of questions that guide the observer to ask, is it truly the mitochondria? Let's ask the fly, hey fly, did you really set your eyes like that? Like, how did you know to make your wings like so, like, is it possible? And with that question, the negation just comes to subhanallah. Look at that shirki language. As though when you ask the question, the answer just, yani, it just comes with some presence, right? We're learning now, we can reframe that. When you ask the question from a sincere place, there is some presence that guides or delivers the answer. So maybe it's not about how to explain it, but how to ask the questions when you look at the mitochondria and see it for what it really is. And you ask, hey, do you know how to make energy? Or whatever it is their claim. I don't know if that helps. And Yamina, feel free, Dr. Yamina, to add or comment.
Dr. Isra said that maybe we can share a few minutes of the video. If everyone's okay with that, I can do it. I have it open here.
It's a longer video, but the part about laws starts around 2 minutes, 25 seconds. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, let me know if you guys actually get the sound here, okay?
No sound for me.
No sound? Okay, 1 second. Okay, let's try now.
So it's true that the world that we live in flows in a particular way, observable patterns, an original order that exists within it. People call this nature or natural laws. Some may believe that physical laws govern the universe. To govern means to control, rule over by right or authority. Can natural laws really be responsible for nature? Let's explore this perspective. Imagine a mother who has developed a rule of making pancakes every Sunday morning, regularly, with no exception. So regular is her practice that we can easily predict the time and the shape of the pancakes beforehand. Now, in this situation, we can even coin a Sunday pancake rule to describe the regularity. The kids ask, will there be pancakes for breakfast this Sunday? And mom responds, Yes, of course, because there's Sunday pancake roll here. But it would be nonsensical for these kids to suggest that the Sunday pancake roll itself makes the pancakes. They cannot talk of a Sunday pancake roll independent of the mother's agency. It's the mother who makes the pancakes, not the Sunday pancake rule. The rule is just a description of a regular happening. It has no efficacy on its own. Can we see now that it would be absurd to suggest that physical or natural laws govern the universe? These laws cannot govern. Rather, they're simply descriptions of the regular governance of the universe. A wise and powerful being must be governing the universe for these laws to manifest and be in effect. Finally, others may believe that the fly came into existence by itself.
Or we can
Look
say,
at the fly and ask.
Okay. So I'll open it back up to Dr. Amina if you'd like to expand a little bit here, or I will continue reading. Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
So in general, first, if you want to learn more how to practice this in our life, so it becomes the way we perceive things, the way we think. It's a total change of perception, of paradigm, of way of thinking, of re-questioning lots of our assumptions and replacing them with new realities, new beliefs that are not unquestioned, but beliefs that we that backed up by evidence. That's what the process of Shahada is about. That's why it's so central to being a Muslim. It's everywhere in the Risale-i Nur, starting from the first word, but also if you go the 33rd, before the 33rd, the 32nd word as well. And each time he would have, and 22nd, 23rd, all of them. It's about causality. It means each time we see a cause and effect, we question the link between them, because when we don't question, when we take things for granted, we assume that there is a horizontal relationship between the two, and it seems to us that one is producing the other, that the second is the result of the first, and it's based on an irrational logic that says, well, if it was not there, if there's no water, the plant won't grow. If there is no sun, this won't happen. Therefore, it is doing it, which is totally doesn't make sense. Without bulb, there will be no light in my room, but the bulb is not making the light. So that's reasoning is unquestioned, but actually it doesn't make sense. So there are many ways, and during our receiving Nur weekly meetings, we went through how to break up causation and see how the moment we start asking question, can this cause what supposedly assume is a cause, can it in any way produce this result? And as Sarah just shared, immediately it becomes clear it's that it is not possible. We have been created with a fitra that recognizes that it's not possible. And of course, part of it was the interconnection of everything. So the next step will be keeping in mind that not only an egg cannot make a bird, but that bird, it doesn't exist in a void. It is related to the whole universe. It needs to breathe, let alone life. Just its existence is a miracle, in the sense that nothing can create it, bring it into being, or sustain it from one moment to the other, except one who has control over the whole universe, because everything is interconnected in space, in time. You cannot have one without the other. This way of reasoning needs to be practiced. The first step is always understanding intellectually, but it's not enough. Dhikr is remembrance. The heart needs to embody this, so it becomes our way of being in the world. So we need to practice it again and again and again. جددوا إيمانكم بلا إله إلا الله. That's the only way we can practice la ilaha. This is not an ilah. Can't be God. Water can't do this. The sun can't do this. And we will see that not only it refutes, we refute they are not gods. They are not gods except the one who creates everything. At the same time, we'll see how they are proclaiming the Shahada. That's why it's Alam al-Shahada. It's the realm of testifying. They're testifying to the oneness of God, to the beautiful names of God. That's how we get to know God with his beautiful names, through their testimony. There is no way I can testify on my own. I have to use the testimony of everything around me, and we will see how they are glorifying God. Tasbih, he is beyond any shirk. And then we take part into this. Next is the law. The law is the order. So it becomes easier once we are clear about the relationship between the so-called cause and effect, and we see the flow of creativity happening in order. So there are regularities. And those regularities, again, in ghafla, when we take things for granted, it seems that because it's always happening this way, then somehow that regularity, we call it law, and somehow it has some power. What he's saying, a few words here. He said, you should never think that the laws in force in this creation are sufficient for the universe to be alive, because those governing laws are insubstantial commands, amr. By the way, unless we see through the so-called laws of nature, and the laws of nature is because we are stuck into a horizontal way of perceiving the creation, the world being, we won't be able to witness the divine command here and now, be, and it is. So because remember, there is no way we can feel the need for angels or seek or see the angels, or at least feel the angels, unless we are witnessing the divine command. Then we realize something is sustaining, is holding, is this command in this realm. And from the other side, it must be also receiving the command. That command, how could it become something? Something is like a transformator, like a messenger in between. That's the angelic realm. So be and it is, there are a few risalas, I think probably, if I remember correctly, I'll have to check the 15th word, I think. Can you please correct me, those who listen, that talk about be and it is and the divine command. And it is related also to the laws, but they are not the laws of nature. There are no laws of nature. The moment we start seeing things horizontally, we start seeing laws, but like in the 32nd word, Imam Nursi, rahimahullah, he calls them like the laws of Rahmah, the laws of Razaqiyah, the laws of the beautiful names of God, because there is no horizontal. Yeah, the fact that the sun rises every morning, you can call it Rahmah or Razaqiyah, or because they look to the beautiful names of God, they look to the divine command. So he's saying those laws, they are not sufficient for the universe to be alive. Why? Because those governing laws are insubstantial commands. Here it's insubstantial is i'tibari, which is hypothetical, doesn't have a tangible external existence. And they are, instead of imaginary, I would say they are theoretical, suppositional.
Like the pancake law in that.
Yeah, so it's not imagination, because when you say imagination, I'm not imagining things, something is going on. The word that in the original means more suppositional, theoretical. So they may be considered that non-existence. In itself, the rule of the pancake, there is no such a rule. It's just the way mom in this home, it's her decision. It's her, the way she manifests her will. It's her practice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's abstraction because she does it over and over.
Exactly.
Month after month.
So it is an abstract. We can abstract that from her practice, but we can't say there is a rule, here it is. It has no external existence. It's a mental construct that makes it's heuristic. It's like a tool. It makes understanding, the concept makes understanding easier. Instead of saying each time mom does this every Sunday, we just say rule. So it's a convenient term, but it doesn't mean that there is something out there, rule, doing things. If there were no absolutely obedient creatures called angels to represent the laws and to make them apparent, something is going, some activity is going on for the pancake to happen, to be there. Someone is doing something. And take their reins into their own hands, those laws could not be defined as existence. There is no such a law. It doesn't exist on its own. The law is only a word to describe the order of the activities that are going on. But the activities, who is doing them? Who is doing that? Not.
Camilla, how can we unpack angels in that? Because in the metaphor, of course, as a metaphor, it's limited. Pancake law, and from there we immediately transition to the mother who makes the pancakes. But then, it only shows that pancake laws cannot make pancakes. In that sense, it's a helpful metaphor, but then it doesn't quite have a space for angels, something to represent angels within that metaphor. So
well, maybe I'm pushing a little bit the metaphor, but if I look at the pancake, I say, okay, I can deduce that some ingredients have been used, and also you needed a pan and some heat, and so all those things that are in this case they are not helping anyone, because it's they are part of the creation. But in the that's why it's just a metaphor. وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى. I can see that what you used through the metaphor. I can deduce a pan or a kind of utensil, something, and some heat. There must be some source of heat, otherwise that batter wouldn't become that. And I can also maybe say something about the cook, how good the cook is, or if it has, like in the video, shapes and this and that. So maybe there are kids in this house, that's why the pancake has this shape or that. So we
or how about we really change, really get out of this metaphor of pancakes
and just go out
so
there in the creation.
Yeah, something that comes to my mind is to kind of zoom out and consider not that household only, but all the households in which throughout the world there is something being made for the child, that there is this nurturing of children across time and space. Lots of parents are trying to take care of their children, feed them, and there is an almost like a very global, universal, almost occurrence of people trying to take care of their children. And okay, of course there are exceptions, neglectful parents and so on, but in general you see a whole, like if you expand, you see this whole vision of children being taken care of by their parents to the best that they can.
But then still we have a human agent, and if we are not used to questioning things, maybe we can start with, you said in the beginning, gravity, for instance. Gravity, they will tell you that it's a force, which again in physics, force is an abstract concept. There is no force out there. No one can see a force. And they will tell you that in that model, it's all hypothetical. And someone else can come up with another explanation. The matter is pulling. So if matter is pulling, so the earth is pulling, it means each tiny piece of matter is pulling.
Do you mean it's the case, or do you mean that's what they say?
No, this is what they say. But this matter, so if you say the earth is pulling, that's what keeps us like we're not flying in space. But it's not pulling randomly, it's pulling according to the law that we found by measuring. There is even a constant of gravity. So that pull and that constant regular pulling, just enough, not too much, not too little. And it depends, it's always proportional to our weight as well. Then it's assuming if there is nothing else, if this is what they tell us, which science does, then we're saying that matter, can you imagine each little particle is always pulling and measuring? We wouldn't be able to do that always exactly, accurately, without any mistake. and why would it bother, and how does it do it? It has to be not only, it has to have the power, it has to have the consciousness, it has to have the intelligence, it has to be calculating each time. Something that is not of matter is happening there, that transcends any notion of matter is happening there, and something that is crucial to our lives, to living, to even living in this world. So why should it bother? How does it know us? So clearly something is going on there. When we start asking questions like this, which we learn from the Quran, and in the Risale Nur, he teaches you this very systematically. People who don't have this kind of question may find, some people say, oh, it's boring, because if you don't have the need, you don't see why is he approaching the issue from different perspectives. And why should it even be an issue? Because we don't realize that we are committing shirk all the time. And then, lo and behold, you see that in the Quran, Allah is repeatedly telling us, be careful, be careful, be careful. Most people believe in God only as a mushrik, but we don't take it seriously, because we say, yes, the other people do it. Yeah, but if the Quran is, in the Quran we are told this repeatedly, it means it's important. It's what do we repeat? What we repeat in our life, the more we repeat it, the more we understand it's important. We can eat once a day, even if we skip one day, it's okay. But when it comes to liquids and water, it's difficult to skip. And when it comes to air, we can't skip at all. And we breathe all the time, repeatedly. And no one says, oh, I'm bored of breathing all the time. Why? Because it's so fitri, we don't even question it. We take air for granted so much we need it. So it's all a matter of being aware of our needs. And the needs of the ruh is to know that everything is in control and everything is, someone is in charge. The one who is in charge, the one who is in control, alhamdulillah, that it's not me or someone else like me. It's someone who has absolute and all encompassing power and wisdom. Wisdom is always looks to beneficial for us, for our life, for everything else. Has wisdom, has power, has compassion, has love, care. So then we say, oh, alhamdulillah. So we need not only to remember this from time to time when we are in crisis, no, we need to live with this consciousness, with this knowingness, to be that. That's what abd is, to live in a state of ubudiyah. Wherever we turn, we see that everything is telling us about who we are, what they are doing, what we are supposed to be doing here, what's our goal in life. We are here to, what does it mean that we enhance our humanity? It's to prepare for eternal life, for akhirah. So everything becomes a means to get closer to who we are, closer to our creator, closer to fulfilling the purpose of our creation and the purpose of the creation of everything. All this is related, but because most of the time we don't have that integrity, we don't have that self-awareness, we are everyone is running behind something that we think is important. But in fact, if we just pause and ask, if I were to die tomorrow, will this be important? Definitely it won't. So why am I making such a big deal about it? Okay, it could be part of my life, but it can't be the goal. And if it is not serving the ultimate goal, then there is a big question mark about it. And because we are always running from who we truly are and what the real purpose is, we don't want to face that for some reason, different reasons, then we don't feel, or we don't want to acknowledge the need of the ruh, our true needs of the heart. And so what is repeated in the Quran, mostly we don't feel the need to study the Quran every day. God is speaking to me, my creator is speaking to me. When am I going to study that? It concerns the meaning of my life, but I'm not even curious about it. I'm not excited about it. I say, if I have time, I'm too tired. I have time for everything except the most important thing. It's actually, if we pause and think about it, we are, the way we live our life is like, it's foolish is not even the word. It's like, it's madness. But when we feel the need for it, then it becomes like air, or like water when you are very thirsty, or like the food that you enjoy the most when you are hungry. Can you imagine? For the ruh. So, for instance, that a matter cannot do what science says it's doing. Yes, that is happening, but that matter can't be doing it. Something else is going on there. Something that requires intelligence and consciousness, and lots of divine names are manifesting there. That thing looks, because it's happening regularly without all the time, we know that it is all comprehensive. Then it gives us, that's why he's talking about the meaning of the angels, because we are not there yet. At least if we feel that there needs to be something. But again, in order to become close to there, we need to become more familiar with the Malakut aspect of the creation. The Malakut aspect is the aspect, it's the same thing, it's just the way we look at it. I can look at it in a way that's it. A tree is a tree. It's matter, a trunk, or something. And I can look at it as, someone can look at it as art. Someone can look at it as there is healing here, a healer. The mu'min, the believer, will look at it as there is meaning here. This tree is speaking. There is a message here. This tree is not just a lump of matter without any meaning. Something very meaningful is going on here. Then we start asking our question and getting our answers from the tree, and we realize that the tree is speaking, is communicating with us, is praising God, is glorifying God, is making tasbih, is proclaiming the shahada, is proclaiming so many beautiful names of God. And so now my relationship with the tree is very different. Now we are co-worshippers, co-glorifiers, and it's something that is reminding me of and not only reminding me, but channeling the beautiful names of God, mirroring them to me, showing me different names of God in different ways. Those different names of God are coming through the tree. So the tree cannot be just matter. There is something that is emanating that requires intelligence and consciousness, and that is communicating with me. We say God is communicating, true, but like if your child or someone you know is communicating with you, it's also God maybe sending you a message through that, but we don't say the person as if the person is not saying anything. Still, there is something going on with the person. I'm not talking about the free will aspect. Here, yeah.
So to locate more clearly the angels in this relationship, I want to see if we can come back to laws. So we see events with such consistency and such comprehensiveness in the world we live in. Then we deduce laws that we see something that's like, in the case of the tree, for instance, I don't know, maybe flourishing, that this tree is in the springtime is flourishing, or in the fall, but let's just take spring, at having these buds and then leaves, and it's growing. And then I don't just see that tree, but the entire, like not just some branches, but all the branches go through this. And then I look across, there's so many different trees go through this. So then I see a pattern there, a law there. So it isn't separate from all these trees combined, but it's also not just all the trees. Like there is a level of abstraction there that's very commonsensical too, like this is the trees, the flourishing law, or trees coming to life law, or whatever we sometimes
especially if we pick one kind of tree, we say yes, this happened because this is this kind of tree, this is an oak tree, this is what happens.
This is the pattern for an oak tree, or to think about things like water boiling at a certain temperature and pressure across the world, or as you said, gravity. So we don't just see things falling or things boiling, or particular creatures blossoming, but we notice a law or pattern, or laws or patterns, and that's maybe our entry into angels from our contemporary way of thinking. We were like, what makes, once we recognize these different consistencies and patterns, we need to pause, because in our education at school, we don't pause. We give it a name and move on. We say law of gravity, or law of things coming to life in the spring, or we even call it the spring, or vegetation, or so on and so forth. So we put the name and we move on. But then if we can pause, then we can see that, well, wait a second, these things do not make things happen. They need to be carried out by some beings. So then that's where we can sense angels, angelic presence, that water boils like this across the world, or maybe it's a too superficial way of talking about the law. Maybe we talk about, as you said, law of coming to life, or even like emotional laws, that when we, like these days, when we talk to people about what's going on in the world and some of the injustices, the moment the person recognizes, gets some history and current situation, and they say, oh wow, I didn't know this was going on, and then immediately response is, well, that's not fair, and we need to change this. What can we do to change this? So that is a law that I've been noticing, that people, wherever they are from, or whatever cultural background, may be very different, but as soon as they recognize, wait a second, this is not fair, these children here are being oppressed, and of course we have to do something about it. We can't let it go. We can't just watch this happen, and this reaction happening it's almost like an emotional law, if you will, that the moment we recognize, of course, we do have our own baggages and barriers to recognize, empathize, but then once you go through those barriers and you have the necessary information, the reaction is the emotional response is so consistent across different people, that we could also call that a law of compassion, law of justice that we all feel. So then we need to again pause and say, well, this is a footprint of an angelic presence. And then the moment we talk about angels, then it's so easy to move on to talk about beautiful names of God, because angels are precisely those. It's transparent. They don't block divine God's Allah's.
They are the bearers. He says the bearers, the representatives.
We are at time, but let me know if this is kind of a broad question. I just feel like this brings me to one of the first things we talked about. We're thinking of them as bearers or as some sort of conduit for meaning. And the phrasing here is, if there were no absolutely obedient creatures called angels to represent them, make them apparent, and take their reins into their own hands. I just feel like for me, it's not very intuitive to see a need for that. Like, why? Like, how can I, in my own experience, confirm that there needs to be a bearer for this?
He started with
Beautiful.
the meaning. There needs to be something. We are jumping from, we're saying matter. The earth is pulling people at always and in an accurate way. If it pulls us too much, we'll be stuck. We won't be able to move. If it's not enough, we would be flying around. Does it make sense that this is not possible? Even if we had factories everywhere, we would have to have programs and this and that. They are always calculating. It would be a huge, and if there is a small mistake, and everything that is human man-made will have, there will be no electricity, something is cut, a program goes wrong, then the whole world will be in chaos. But no such a thing happens, and there is no one calculating around the matter that we're talking about, since this the materialist science believes only in what they see. Well, excuse me, but go and look at what you're saying. This thing doesn't have what you're saying. We can, if you have a plant, you can put it in this, maybe put some music, put something. Let's see if it responds to this, responds to that. But matter, as they say, like earth, soil, doesn't do that as far as they're concerned. So who is doing it? There needs to be something. There is something going on there that we're missing. Otherwise, we won't get that result. Does it make sense?
Yes and no. I understand, like, I'm looking at matter and I'm saying, okay, matter itself obviously can't do these things. I can observe that because it doesn't know me, and it would need to be coordinating, trillion atoms at the same time to do some of the things that I just take for granted.
Nothing to do with me. Let's say as they say, randomly, by coincidence, it happened that it's good for us as well. But the universe is blind, matter is blind. It just happened that it's good for us. Even then, it doesn't work. How come can it even do something like that? Because it always is calculated. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to measure and find the formula. The formula is coming from where? It's like the rule of pancake. It's through observation. That's how we measured and found out. And it's not only in gravity there is a constant. There are plenty of constants, lots of rules in electricity, electromagnetic fields, all kinds of constants in physics. Where do they come from? From measurement. They are there, out there. Things are happening according to a particular order. Can they just happen like that?
Yeah. Okay. I do want to keep going, but I will respect people's time. So I think, and Dr. Isra said maybe we can think about this until our next meeting. And we'll start with basically the end of the beginning and then in short next week, inshallah. Dr. Yamina, if you have any closing statements, please share it with us.
Thinking about starting with the laws is not easy. You need to start first with each cause effect, because the law is a collection of regular, what we call cause effect, cause effect, cause effect. But if we question each cause effect, then it becomes very clear. Then we will be able to see that this is happening as a result of power and order and wisdom, and that are all comprehensive. They include the future and the past, because that one event cannot happen on its own without being interconnected with everything in space and time. That is the beginning. It's the beginning and the end. And that's where all the beautiful names are going to reveal themselves. And from there to go to the law will be much easier. But this is not only an intellectual. We have to learn it well. So intellectual we are at ease with it. And then we need to practice it and feel how this can do this. Witness, stay with it, experience it, and feel the awe at what we are observing, and how normally we just say those absurd and actually huge lies because we never thought about it. Otherwise, we would be really trembling from the claims we are making without realizing. Inshallah.
Inshallah.
I just want to
So-
end with something that piggybacks off of Dr. Yamina's homework for the week. So there's a very chaotic seeming world, trembling of events happening momentarily, and because of the way that we're all connected through different media outputs, it's very easy to consume all of that. So to bring us back to this homework assignment, to be very mindful and still with whatever cause and effect you're going to focus on. As Dr. Yamina was talking, I was thinking about how I boil water for tea, and the water just boils. So I put the temperature and the water boils, and I don't ever think about, for me, it's like, yeah, because water boils at this temperature. So I was like, okay, well, that'll be my homework. I'll just sit with that. Does water just boil at this temperature? It's a law. Let's just sit with one cause and effect. And what I want to say about that is, again, given the past few halakas that we've had so far, and to conclude on that, there is an opportunity to open this awareness to a presence that is with me, a presence, the Nursi calls it a spirit being, a something that is with me at all times and operating in the things with me, around me, in me. And there is something that really gives my soul so much warmth right now to think about that, because it can feel so lonely. It can feel so alienating. It can feel so dark or gloomy, or because we are not accessing this presence, a real living, acting presence that is in the midst, that we are learning how to become aware of. So it is very exciting, and the impact that it has on our lives is tremendous, especially in this Western world where it's fast paced and we're often alone. Well, we think that we're often alone. There is a huge opportunity, inshallah, to really seriously do this homework and discover a real living, not like make-believe, not theory, not law, but a real presence that is with me. And I'll end with that.
Yeah, thank you. That's very important, because the law, the theory, all that is when we are trying to understand. That's why he's talking about the meaning of angels, not even from the beginning. There must be angels. He's not talking about the angels. I can only feel the angelic presence to the extent that I am living from the ruh, from the soul, because the ruh senses the other spirits and the other angelic beings. But if I'm not present with my ruh even, how can I detect them? I'm not living at that level of consciousness and awareness. That's why I'm saying, yes, intellectually we'll understand, but if we stay there only, then it will be just an intellectual activity. The intellectual activity is only the first step required so that I have something to work with, to practice. And it's only as I practice it, as I stay there and be present with what's going on, with the miracle of power, of wisdom, of that, for instance, the water boiling. The more I stay there, the ruh is created in a way that it will recognize that there is a miracle there. It will recognize the beautiful names even before we make sense of it and articulate it and say this name, that name. We will feel the awe. We will feel like going into sajda. When we stay with that awe, we stay with, there is wisdom, there is something going on. Something is holding, bearing those meaning, those names there. Now it's not meaning anymore, because it's something that we are experiencing, something that has external experience, existence, inshallah.
And I know, Nurbano, you always respect the time, and I'm very sorry because I don't have that same respect. But inshallah, this will be the last comment. I remember Dr. Yamina in the past with our meditations, really guiding us through witnessing the breath to feel this intense awe. And with our sister Mahad to talk about, feeling the awe of these miracles and joy. And I remember at that time feeling like it was very difficult, like, because in my tarbiyah, in my upbringing, okay, it's just a breath, or okay, it's just like, what's so special about this? Like, and then I try to, focus and settle and be like, okay, yes, it is true. I can't explain how it's happening. That is true. Well, must be something okay, yes, that's true. And so now the next step that we're slowly walking into is that the lungs in and of themselves don't breathe, or how they're expanding. This body is the flowing forces are very much so here right now in my body, bringing this unseen breath to give me life. And there's an operating force right here with me doing it. And so when we pause with that, for me, the awe it's very chilling. It is very chilling because I think the first assumption, it's like, oh yeah, science, blah, 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 anatomy, the pleural space and the anatomy. Yes, this is how it happens. And then once we break through that, it's like, okay, Allah is doing it. Yes. And then we're breaking through that too, because that was also a shortcut that we've learned that takes away from this magical presence or living aspect that's carrying out, that's actively participating, that's actively, I don't want to say working, but being employed. There's a living thing doing the things on me, in me, around me, with me. And so I'm excited to pause with it, and it's very special. Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Dr. Yamina.
Thank you, Sarah. We will reshare the homework in the group, inshallah, and let's try at least to have one experience this week where we focus on something that we take for granted and just sit with it and see what kind of contemplation we can do with it, and then bring that contemplation to next week's discussion. I am so sorry. We are 17 minutes past. I will stop the recording here. Jazakallah khair for everyone's comments. Dr. Yamina, thank you so much. It looks like we're going a little bit slow, but I feel like everyone's getting a lot from the text. But if you guys have any feedback, please let us know, and we'll try to incorporate it. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. آخر دعوانا إن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة على رسولنا صلوات.